Hey Internet, Caligula here, and welcome to another episode of A Case of Distrust. So in the last episode, we went to the Tin Spoon Lounge and talked to Tiny Paul, and then we went to a barber shop where we talked to a bald guy named Redstone Stable who tipped us off about talking to someone at the police station about the source of Connor Green's note and the black handprint that was on it. So that's where we're gonna go first. I always dreaded visiting the PD after I'd flown the coop, and I was in no mood right now, but if Shipman did know something about Green's note, I had to chase it up. The North Beach station was SFPD headquarters, also politically baptized the Hall of Justice. The building dominated the corner of Kearny and Washington in Chinatown. Rebuilt after the 1906 earthquake, I thought it looked even more sour than it had before. I strode to the young bobbed girl behind the large oak desk. She must have been new because we shared no recognition of one another. I asked for Shipman and she motioned me to a chair as she pressed a pearl button. I sat down and she disappeared through a frosted door. I rolled another cigarette to pass the time. Oh, you could smoke in police stations. Between puffs, I thought about my history at the department, the future of the SFPD, that sounds boring, the shape of my smoke plumes. I want to know more about our history. Between puffs, I thought about my history at the department. I imagined the station captain would have been furious had he known I was there. I did, after all, break a tumbler with the help of another officer's temple. Ooh, that had been my last day on the force. So why'd we quit? It wasn't long before Shipman walked out of the frosted door. Did we quit because our uncle died? I don't know the connection between those two things. Samuel Shipman smiled when he saw me. He was tall and tanned. He had always been helpful. Ooh, he was tall and tanned. He was tall and tanned with a clean haircut and polished shoes. He had warm eyes and was generally empathetic to victims and suspects alike, but his appearance belied his ferocity. When by the book failed, there weren't many lengths too far for him. Oh, geez, Samuel. He judged officers purely on results, and because of that, he was one of my few fans on the force. Oh, so at least we were good at our job. We exchanged brief pleasantries before he said, "Wouldn't come here for glad-handing." Glad-handing? I don't know what glad-handing is. He had a habit of removing the subject from his sentences. What needs doing? I explained my case to him. He scoffed when I mentioned Connor Green. Working for that pinhead? Got a good mind to run him up a flagpole. I just need to know about this letter. I handed him the note Green had given me and explained its context. After looking it over, Shipman tried to stifle a laugh. Completely bunk, he said. See this symbol in the corner? Mark of the Black Hand Gang, except the Black Hand Gang letters are always ransom letters, not threats. No foothold on this coast anyhow, never been one in California. So it's a fake Black Hand letter. So the letter's a fake? Shipman nodded, someone trying to imitate the Black Hand. I grunted a sigh and noted what he'd said. Okay, so Connor Green is just trying to bail town, and he's gonna fake his death or something like that because he's gonna steal Tiny Paul's money because he doesn't have no connection. Don't know if Green is getting one over you, he said, or if someone else is pulling Green's leg, but having more dirt on the man couldn't hurt, especially if he's your client. I agreed. I've been trying to dig through his past. You got any bunk on him? Shipman shook his head. No, from Oakland is all I know, but I can do some more digging. I thanked him for that. Under a pile of ice, though, might take me a while. Why don't I telephone you when I find something? I had no office where I could receive messages, but I dreaded returning to the station. I told him to call Southern Coffee. Just leave anything with Franklin Conway, I instructed. He said that was all right. We traded goodbyes, and I went back to the station's entrance. Now I knew the letter was fake, and Shipman was looking into Green's past for me. I just needed to chase up the bootlegging lead. I stepped into the street and thought about where to go. Ooh, the bootlegging lead? What's the bootlegging lead? So the letter's a fake. We need to investigate Green's bootlegging and discover more about his past. I think that there's still more we need to figure out from the Tin Spoon Lounge, so let's go back there before we go back to Frankie. And sure, we'll talk to the cabbie this time. We talked about politics, but I don't remember exactly what about. Not all my conversations with cab drivers were memorable. Oh, okay. Here we are at the North Beach warehouse. Let's walk up. bar's still closed. Can we ask him about Mrs. Green? Mrs. Green following her husband? Let's ask her about being a singer. He should know something about Mrs. Green. Green's wife is a torture here, I asked. Paul smiled. With the pipe she's got built into that body, she's the reason more fellas keep coming back to the joint. Oh, God. So that didn't tell us too much, but maybe we could also ask about her following her husband. What do you want with that, he asked. I pushed him on it, but he got nowhere. Damn it. Anything else we could ask him about? Should we tell him that Green has tickets to St. Louis? Let's try it. What happens? I considered telling Tiny Paul about Green's tickets to St. Louis, but if these mobsters thought that Green was about to blow town, they'd be liable to dig him an early grave. Yeah, I figured it was a bad idea. I still needed to solve my case, and for that I needed my employer alive. Maybe after it all cleared up, I'd mention Green's tickets. I must have been lost in thought because Tiny Paul said, "Can I get back to this already?" motioning to the pool table. All right. I don't think there's anything else we could ask him. That was kind of a waste. We just found out he's got the hots for Mrs. Green. Can we go back to the Green's house? Mrs. Green had been in a heavy opium daze, and I doubted her delirium would be short-lived. She wouldn't be useful to me, but I still might get something from searching the house. No, let's not go there. It doesn't sound like there'll be anything new, so let's go to Southern Coffee. Shipman said he'd call Southern Coffee if he found any dirt on Green. I could go see if I had any messages. Of course, if I was stuck on the case, a stiff drink with Frankie could give me some hint as well. So let's go here. I flagged a taxi cab and was on my way. I thought about chatting with the driver to pass the time. Let's try it. I started a conversation with the driver, a young man who is a former journalist in Tennessee. Tried to change this place with my reports, he said with a slight twang. Left as soon as I saw that'd be impossible. What change? Yeah, let's ask him what change. What change did you have in mind, I asked. Well, he cleared his throat. I was a staunch believer in democracy, but my old state's got the lawman John Butler that sells snake oil as far as I'm concerned. He wants to outlaw teaching evolution to children. I tried to fight it to show the people he was insane, but it seems like the law will pass. How does this con man know more than a scientist? That's just one example, but it's damn tyranny of the 51%. Argue democracy is good, argue that it ain't. Let's argue that it ain't. Democracy is only as smart as the people voting. Sometimes it seems we're all swayed by the loudest talker. Sometimes, the driver snorted, seems if a man says black is white and he says it with enough gusto, the people will vote to make it so. The public can be a dangerous weapon if you know how to use them. Don't we know, taxi driver? Don't we know? The taxi pulled up to our destination. This cab is a dictatorship, and I say you gotta get out now so I can grab another customer. He winked and I exited. Okay, Frankie. Let's see if we could talk to him about anything else. Let's ask him about Shipman's message. I sat on my regular stool and rapped my knuckles on the bar. Any messages, Frankie? I asked him. And what do you mean by that? Well, I told Sam Shipman, an old contact on the force, to leave any dirt with you if he found it. Frankie laughed. So now I'm your bartender and your secretary. Say, if I become your housemaid, will you at least pay me? So I'm guessing you haven't heard anything, I said. Nothing yet, Miss Chief, Frankie chuckled. Shipman's supposed to call you about Green? What have you got so far? No real breaks to speak of, I said. Well, all right, I'll let you know if this Shipman gives me a call. I thanked him. What else you got? Let's tell Frankie that we learned that the Black Hand letter is a fake. I pulled Green's letter from my pocket and showed it to Frankie. Still not sure what to make of that note, Frankie asked. In fact, I said, I do. It's bust. Green was giving me the runaround. This letter is a fake. See, I knew it. Frankie gasped. So why would Green hire you? I gave my shoulders a shrug. I still need to solve that part. Well, let me know if there's anything I can help you with. Alright, so Frankie keeps telling us to do two things. First of all, he keeps telling us to go back to Tiny Paul's and to ask Tiny Paul for a sample of whatever booze Green is bootlegging, so I guess we'll do that. He also keeps telling us to go back to the Green's apartment and to do some more snooping around there. I'm a little bit confused by that because I'm pretty sure that we found everything that was there in the Green's apartment, but if Frankie's telling us to do that, we obviously gotta do it. Since we've already been to Tiny Paul's in this episode, I think I'm going to save going back to the Green's house and back to Tiny Paul's for the next episode. Thank you so much for watching this episode of A Case of Distrust. I really hope that you're enjoying this series, and I will talk to you soon in another video. Goodbye!